Welcome, dear people. This is Bjorn here with Unquire for this week, and I'm broadcasting to you over the noon hour as I have recording responsibilities at church tonight in preparation for Christmas. And so I am with you over lunchtime. So I hope if you are watching this live, this is a convenient time. If not, you can always catch us later. And today I am bringing you songs of ancient longing and wonder. We have three very old songs for this coming Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Advent, where we will hear the story of the Annunciation to Mary and find within ourselves that same longing for the birth of Christ in our lives right now and in our own hearts. And so the first song is O Come, Emanuel. And if you are following along in the ELW, that is number 257. And if you are following along in an older LBW, that is number 34. ELW 257, Green Book 34. O Come, Emanuel is based on the O antiphons. And these are very ancient antiphons or refrains that were used with the singing of the Canticle of Mary for the service of evening prayer for the week before Christmas, starting actually this Thursday on the 17th. We have different invocations. We invoke O Wisdom, O Lord on high, O Branch of Jesse, O Key of David, O Dayspring, O King of Nations, God with us Emmanuel, all these names for Jesus, all these names for the Messiah. The text reads, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel that mourns in lonely exile here until the Son of God appear. And then there's always the refrain, Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. This text is found in manuscripts going back to the 800s, so this has been in our use for quite some time now. It is found in almost every Christian hymnal that I'm aware of, and this comes to us again from a very ancient place. However, for a long time, a lot of the medieval and very earliest Christian hymns were forgotten about, and it was actually the Victorians, especially the work of John Mason Neale, who was an English clergyman, poet, wonderful linguist. He could read and write and think in 21 different languages, which is amazing. What they did before TV came along, I guess. But at any rate, he translated a lot of these ancient Latin, Syrian, Greek, Russian hymns into English, and they found our way into common usage. And now, over 100 years later, we consider these just a link to our past. However, that link was broken in a lot of places for a long time. So these are old songs of longing that our human hearts still feel that sense there of wonder and longing. So again, the text, these are from the O antiphons, and if you have the hymnal at home, you'll notice at the bottom of the page it invites you to pray these or to sing these on the following dates. And maybe you'll take that practice up starting this Thursday. And as you light your Advent wreath and have your evening devotions before bed, you can sing a verse of these. I will bring us through 4 verses. And if you are working from the older Green Book, you'll notice that some of these don't appear exactly in that volume. The editors of our new hymnal have expanded and kept all the original verses, and some of those were lost in the Green Book, and so they have been restored, and all of them exist here. So I will sing O Come, O Wisdom. We will sing O Come, O Key of David, O Come, O Dayspring, and O Come, O King of Nations. I think these texts are the richest. The imagery in there speaks the most to me, and I think a lot of us in this time of pandemic and darkness, and we are in need of cheer and justice and light. So I invite you to sing along with me this very ancient hymn, and we are joining with those that have come before us in the sense of longing and wonder. O come, O wisdom from on high, embracing all things far and nigh. In strength and beauty come and stay. Teach us your will and guide our way. Rejoice, rejoice, Emanuel shall come to you, O Israel. O come, O Key of David, come, and open wide our heavenly home. Make safe the way that leads on high, and close the path to misery. Rejoice, rejoice, Emanuel shall come to you, O Israel. O come, O dayspring, come and cheer. O Son of justice, now draw near. Disperse the gloomy clouds of night, and death's dark shadows put to flight. Rejoice, rejoice, Emanuel shall come to you, O Israel. O come, O King of nations, come, O cornerstone that binds in one. Refresh the hearts that long for you. Restore the broken, make us new. Rejoice, rejoice, Emanuel shall come to you, O Israel. A well-known tune, but always new every Advent. Our next tune comes to us from the Basque region, and that is the region between Spain and France, within both countries, where the Basque people have lived for millennia. And they have a very unique language that's not very well relatable to either of their neighbors, and their tradition goes back to very ancient times. This is a Basque Advent carol. It basically tells the story of the Annunciation. The angel Gabriel comes to Mary. He explains what might happen, and she consents to God's plan and says, "Okay, I'll do this," and celebrates the words of the angel to her. "All hail to thee, O lowly maiden Mary, most highly favored lady, Gloria." And this hymn, the text is probably a localized and folk rendition of the medieval carol of Ad Virginus Angelorum, which basically tells the same story. Scholars think that these things were related. However, this is the Basque take on it, and they made that text their own and used their own folk tune for it, not the one that was in common circulation. So good independent spirit in that way of claiming that story for their own in their own form. And the tune became known through the efforts of the Reverend Sabin Baring Gould. That name may be familiar to some of us. He wrote a few Victorian hymns, the best of which is known, Onward Christian Soldiers. He also was a linguist and loved music and hymns, and he was made aware of the effort of a Frenchman who was sent by the French government to collect folk music of the Basque region and record it so that their culture, their important culture and contributions to the the country were known and documented. And so this is an English translation of a French translation of the Basque Carol. And the music is very straightforward. It has a little bit of a refrain that goes like this. And these are the angel's words. Most highly favored lady, Gloria. And if you're following along in the Cranberry ELW hymnal, this is at 265. It is not in earlier Lutheran hymnals. So this is something that is newer to many of us. The tune, it kind of has this lilting folk rhythm. And you'll recognize that part that I taught before. Most highly favored lady, Gloria. So why don't you sing that, and I will lead the verses. And as we come to know this piece better, when we are encountering it together on Sunday, it will become a little bit more familiar. And so let's sing this Basque carol together. The angel Gabriel from heaven came, with wings as drifted snow, with eyes as flame. All hail to thee, O lowly maiden Mary, most highly favored lady, Gloria. For know, a blessed mother thou shalt be, all generations laud and honor thee. Thy son shall be Emanuel, by seers foretold, most highly favored lady, Gloria. Then gentle Mary meekly bowed her head. To me be as it pleaseth God, she said. My soul shall laud and magnify God's holy name, most highly favored lady, Gloria. Of her Emanuel the Christ was born, in Bethlehem all on a Christmas morn. And Christian folk throughout the world will ever say, most highly favored lady, Gloria. A fun, bouncy carol. Kids' choirs love to learn this carol because it has that sort of sing-songy nature that endears us to it. Our final hymn is Creator of the Stars of Night, and this song will be found in the ELW at 245, and if you are following along in an older green hymnal, you will find a text. It's not the exact one, it's a different translation of the same hymn, but the music's the same, 323. And this is another ancient song. This is plain song or Gregorian chant. And excuse my little tabs there sticking up in the way. Of course, so much of our music is rhythmic in nature, especially in our sort of Western societies. However, the oldest church music was sort of arrhythmical. It was just sort of following the speech patterns of the text, and it sort of had a big internal rhythm to it, but it wasn't metered in the sense that we have that ta-ta, 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 ta-ta in the previous song. This is much more loose, and sometimes you'll have a shorter note and a longer note, but in other words, it's not something you can dance to. So Gregorian chant, very ancient, only one form of chant. There are many styles of chant, and this was the sort of approved church music for a good 1,000 years or so, and exclusively so in at least the Western Church. And this text is from the 800s as well. O Come, O Come, Emanuel, the text is also from that same period, so that medieval period, the Dark Ages. And we will be singing this text, O Come, Emanuel, will be an instrumental, but we'll be singing the text from this hymn from the 800s. And we'll also be singing it with the original music, the music at least that's always been associated with this in any sort of documentation. And the melody is rather simple. And you can almost think of this as a sigh, a prayer. Da 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 da. Ta ta da ta 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 da da. It sort of has that very longing sense to the line. And the last thing I wanted to mention about this text is that it is very cosmic in nature. It's referring to the stars, the moon. There are some stanzas that refer to Christ ruling the planets and the cosmos in the same way that Christ rules our hearts here on earth. And it's sort of a very big picture concept. However, this text also celebrates Christ coming in the flesh, in humanity, and redeeming small creatures like we, that we are important and worthy of the same love that guides the planets in their circuits. So we'll be singing 245, and I will bring us through just the first 3 verses of this. And if you are using a different translation, translation that really wasn't used very often, and that's why we went away from that when we switched from the green hymnal to the cranberry hymnal. But again, if you are curious about it, it is at 323 in the Green Book. Creator of the stars of night, your people's everlasting light, O Christ, Redeemer of us all, we pray you hear us when we call. When this old world drew on toward night, you came but not in splendor bright, not as a monarch but the child of Mary, blessed Mother mine. At your great name, O Jesus, now all knees must bend, all hearts must bow, all things on earth with one accord, like those in heaven, shall call you Lord. Very ancient hymn that was always sung during evening prayer in the forms of evening prayer in the Western Church in the season of Advent. So hymns of ancient longing and wonder as we celebrate and connect to our Christian past and greet this particular Advent and Christmas season as we are experiencing a very memorable Advent that has been unlike so many that have gone before. So I invite you to enter into deeply with these texts and sing through them. And as you continue to celebrate Advent in your hearts, we will celebrate together online for worship on Sunday. See you later, friends.